Linda is forced to care for her gravely ill daughter and is already on the verge, though she tries with all her strength not to show it. The girl is fed through a tube, yet Linda insists that the tube no longer functions properly and should be removed. However, the doctor, who has noted Linda's unstable condition, holds a different opinion. Linda loves her daughter deeply and knows she must stay strong, but at times she simply has no strength left. Yet in the moments when Linda hears the girl's genuine laughter, it becomes her motivation to keep fighting. Linda's husband Charles, a long-distance sailor, is almost always away, so she has to cope on her own. On top of everything, a large hole appears in their apartment ceiling, causing a leak. The water floods all the rooms. While the apartment undergoes repairs, mother and daughter are forced to stay in a cheap motel. Wine helps Linda cope with her depression, yet it is only a way to escape, however briefly, from the dull reality her life has become. Each time Linda calls her husband, she reproaches him for leaving her completely alone in this situation. This leads to constant arguments. Charles yells into the phone that he cannot solve anything from afar, yet he must work to support the family. The girl dislikes the food at the motel. Linda ignores her daughter's complaints, for they have no other option for now. Later, mother and daughter drive to the hospital, something that has become part of their routine. Dr. Spring, who oversees the girl's treatment, criticizes Linda for missing several medical procedures. The woman explains that their ceiling collapsed, forcing them to live in a motel. Yet the doctor seems not to hear her, believing that Linda has stopped managing her responsibilities. If the girl reaches the necessary weight within a week, the tube may be removed. Linda is so exhausted that she already confuses days and dates. She visits a therapist to somehow bring her emotional state into order. Linda feels that she no longer controls anything in her life. Charles will return only in 5 weeks. Even the therapist does not care about her problems, and he scarcely tries to hide it. To him, Linda is just one of many patients, and he does not remember the dull details of her gray life. After the therapy session, Linda receives a call from the contractor, who says he will have to postpone the repair because his mother is dying. This was not part of Linda's plans at all, and she cannot hide her frustration. She incidentally works as a psychologist. Her patient, Caroline, is struggling because her son Riley is gravely ill. The woman feels that she cannot cope. Because of this, she has begun suffering from panic attacks. Linda gives Caroline advice on how to manage it, yet she knows it does not work. All these conversations are simply a waste of time that lead nowhere, unless a person convinces themselves that therapy has an effect. In the evening after work, Charles calls and mentions that he and his colleagues have come to a baseball game. Linda asks sarcastically whether he enjoys doing whatever he pleases while she works and cares for their daughter. Yet in Charles's opinion, listening to people complain day after day and having pointless conversations is not real work. In the evening at the motel, the woman prepares all the necessary medications, washes and sets up the feeding tube for her daughter. If everything goes according to plan, the tube will not be needed soon, but for that the girl must gain weight. At night when her daughter is asleep, Linda drinks wine. This time when she goes to the motel store for a second bottle, the young and brazen clerk asks her to show identification, which leads to a conflict. A man named James intervenes and insists that the ID is unnecessary. Taking the bottle, Linda runs off. James follows her and tries to start a conversation, yet she answers rather harshly that she needs to be alone. Charles calls, outraged that his wife left their daughter alone in the room. Linda explains that she needs at least a little personal space, while Charles keeps insisting that she cannot leave their daughter even for a minute. This angers Linda, and she yells that he has no idea what it is like to not belong to herself at all. Her entire life is subordinated to their daughter. In the middle of the night, Linda goes to their apartment and takes photos of the hole in the ceiling. The worker she hired has not done anything yet. He promised that the job would take only a week. Linda decides to spend the night at home, alone. She lies on the couch, watching some old movie when suddenly the sound of breaking glass is heard. Linda enters the room, the one with the ceiling hole, and sees that the mirror is shattered. It seems to her that someone is inside the hole. Suddenly bright light begins to pour from it. Terrified, Linda falls to the floor. The light goes out, and something begins to seep from the hole. Linda cannot say for certain what exactly she saw, or whether she saw anything at all. The next day mother and daughter go to the hospital again. Linda's nerves are gradually giving way, yet she must go to work, and day after day listen to her patients with a sympathetic expression. The woman also continues seeing her therapist. She wants a clear answer to the question of what she should do. The woman is so exhausted, yet she has a real problem that must somehow be solved. However, neither the doctor nor anyone else can tell her for certain what to do. The therapist advises her to stop abusing alcohol, yet it is the only thing in which Linda finds relief. She eventually had to surrender and buy a hamster for her daughter. But the girl did not like that the animal began wriggling out of the box and biting. Linda is already at her limit. Her daughter in tears screams that she no longer wants the hamster. At that moment the driver of the car behind them nearly causes an accident. When Linda steps out with the box to sort things out, the animal escapes and ends up under the wheels. That night, Linda gets drunk again and does not expect to receive a call from her patient Caroline at such a late hour. She only wanted to say that she had started taking a new medication. Linda explains that she should not call over trivial things and that they will discuss everything at the next session. This makes Caroline feel awkward, for she believed the psychologist genuinely cared about her. Linda, who stepped outside to talk so as not to wake her daughter, suddenly realizes that the door has slammed shut. It can only be opened from the inside. She goes to the reception desk, yet no one is there. Linda takes a bottle of wine, deciding she will pay later, they will put it on her account. She knocks on the door, yet her daughter does not hear her. James witnesses this. He invites Linda to his room and offers to buy substances, at her expense because his paycheck is delayed. The woman hesitates, knowing this is a bad idea. When James mentions that Linda constantly leaves her daughter alone, so even if they both go somewhere now, nothing will change, she cannot stand it and leaves. At the next session Caroline arrives in tears. She feels that no one can help her, no one understands her. It is difficult for her to cope with her little son, who is very ill. 15 minutes before the end of the session, Caroline says she needs to use the restroom and leaves. Riley wakes up and begins crying loudly. Linda, suffering from a hangover, first tries to calm the boy, then takes the carrier with Riley in her hands and begins looking for Caroline, yet she is not in any of the stalls. The woman starts to panic and asks her colleague, who also happens to be her therapist, for help, but he refuses because he has a patient at the moment. Linda finds Caroline's husband's contact information and calls him, explaining the situation. The man had no idea his wife was seeing a psychologist. He is at work and cannot come, demanding that Linda bring the child herself. Moreover, he is outraged that Linda has lost his wife, whose responsibility is to stay with the child while he works. Linda states that if he does not show up within half an hour, she will call the police, after which she hangs up. At that very moment her next patient arrives for the session. Linda has no idea what to do. Fortunately this time her colleague comes to her aid and insists that the patient wait in his office. Stephen is not pleased about being made to wait, yet Linda's colleague stands firm. They talk for a bit, which allows Linda to relax slightly. Her colleague decides to tell Stephen that the session is cancelled, giving her the chance to deal with the situation. Since Caroline's husband never arrives, a police officer shows up, believing the woman is simply trying to evade responsibility, as often happens. The repairman hired by Linda is not answering, so the apartment repairs have stalled. The woman cannot understand why the company she hired is doing nothing. She can no longer contain her emotions. Dr. Spring once again reprimands Linda for missing medical procedures. The girl has only 1 week left to gain weight, yet it is clear she physically cannot reach the required number in that time, which means the procedure to remove the tube will have to be postponed. Linda is so worn out that in the evening she decides to stop by James, hoping he has something to offer to help her relax. But the door is opened by some girl who says James is not there. Linda practices breathing exercises in an attempt to calm herself. But she is unable to relax, all her thoughts are consumed by the hole in the ceiling. She could swear that when she closes her eyes, she sees a disco ball inside the hole, casting flashes of light into the darkness. At the same time Linda remembers her daughter's medical episodes. She opens her eyes, feeling a rising sense of anxiety. Looking out the window, Linda sees James in the pool and suggests they go to her apartment so she can show him the hole in the ceiling. For 2 months no one has fixed anything. James is genuinely impressed by the size of the hole. He points out that this is not a burst pipe but something else. It seems the contractor misled Linda. James's cousin happens to be a contractor, and he might be able to help. Staring into the hole, Linda recalls standing by the operating table while her daughter was being operated on. It was a difficult and complex procedure. The scream of James, who has fallen through the floor and appears to have broken his leg, pulls her back into reality. The next day Dr. Spring gathers Linda and other women whose children are also gravely ill so that everyone can share their feelings. Many of the women are struggling, believing it is their fault. Linda is no longer willing to stay here and listen to the doctor say that everything will be fine, because in reality nothing will be fine. All they can do is pretend that everything is under control. In a phone conversation, Charles indignantly asks his wife why she still has not dealt with the hole in the ceiling. In his opinion, it is so easy, just make sure everything gets fixed. Linda tries to explain to her husband that she cannot stretch herself thin over everything at once, both the apartment repairs and their daughter's treatment. And moreover, Linda will not return to the apartment at all. Charles does not understand what is wrong with her. Why can she not simply make an effort so that everything goes back to normal? This conversation, like all the previous ones, leads nowhere. At the next therapy session, Linda mentions that she has been pregnant twice. The first time was almost 20 years ago, at the very beginning of her relationship with Charles. Back then, Linda decided it was not the right time for a child. Now her son or daughter would already be in college. Suddenly the woman bursts into tears, asking herself whether she made the wrong choice. Perhaps she should have kept the first pregnancy, and then she would not have to suffer with a sick daughter. Motherhood feels like punishment to Linda. The woman yells at the therapist, asking why he is unable to help her. He remains silent for a long time, then says that they should end the session and no longer see each other as doctor and patient. Linda is in despair, yet she must stay strong in order to see her own patients. She ignores calls from her husband and from Dr. Spring. The woman receives an email from Caroline saying that she disappeared because she was afraid she might harm her son. Linda is not even listening to her patients anymore. Her life is falling apart, and she does not know how to stop it. She just wants to pretend that her daughter has recovered, that everything is fine. But the reality is entirely different. At night she receives a call from the front desk. The receptionist says someone is waiting for Linda in the lobby. On her way there, she encounters James with a cast on his leg. He is upset that Linda simply left him alone in that terrifying apartment and then did not even try to find out how he was. Linda explains that she needed to rush back to her daughter. James jokes that she is Mother of the Year. The person waiting for Linda in the lobby is Caroline. She once followed her psychologist and found out that Linda lives in a motel. Caroline looks disoriented and speaks incoherently. Linda insists that they should go to the hospital where she can get help, but Caroline categorically refuses. She feels that no one understands her, that no one knows what she is going through. Linda explains that she is trying to help her, which is why she wants to take her to the hospital. At that moment Caroline hits the psychologist and runs off. Linda runs after her, to the beach. But Caroline does not stop, continuing to move farther away. Linda has to return because her daughter is all alone at the motel. While the girl sleeps, Linda makes the decision to remove the feeding tube herself, which she does. When the girl wakes up, her mother tells her that she has fixed everything and that from now on everything will be fine. After this, Linda runs in the direction of their home and sees that something strange is happening there. In the apartment she finds her husband Charles, who returned earlier than planned and has already hired workers to fix the hole in the ceiling. Charles could think of nothing else, wondering when everything became so bad. Linda lies, saying their daughter is with a babysitter. The couple drive to the motel. Charles is terribly tired and just wants to sleep. Linda invents ridiculous excuses to keep him from entering the room. Sensing something is wrong, he demands that she open the door immediately. Inside they find James, who says he was awakened by the girls crying and came to check. James also mentions some kind of opening on her stomach. Charles does not understand what is going on. His shock and confusion grow when he learns that his wife removed the feeding tube on her own. Linda simply runs away. She runs to the beach, straight into the water, but the waves push her back to shore again and again. In the end Linda gives up and collapses onto the sand. She looks into the sky and sees a bottomless void. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.